I do have to let everybody know that we were contacted by a major pharmaceutical company that is hawking arthritis medicine and was asking if Jack's Wax Packs would accept sponsorship for his team. Welcome to Atlas Balked, a weekly chronicle concerning the mundane, weird, and maybe even sometimes dramatic happenings of a simple fantasy baseball league. This podcast captures the thoughts and musings of Greg, Joe, Jack, and Tim, 4 of the 10 owners in the league. This is episode 22 entitled Soft Playing It. Okay, welcome everybody to episode 22. Low Key, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great, riding the playoff train.
Atta boy. Jack Swagger, how are you tonight?
What's happening, fellas? Doing well.
Beautiful. G-Bone, how are you?
Hello. I'm doing well.
All right, boys, here we are. Week 19, final games of the regular season. Let's do a quick rundown of those games, and we'll get to the standings and the playoff picture. Mr. Blonde's Heroes playing 47. Ronan, this was supposed to be the epic game of the season when we set it up in preseason, and it was epic for absolutely no reason. But it was a great fucking game. Blondie with the win. The next game, we've got Omission Commission against the Dreamers. And this is one where Scotty's team, who's been crushing it lately, had to squeak by the Dreamers, who did finally start Freddie Freeman this week. Omission Commission won 44-42. Lethal Injection suddenly woke up in Week 19 and threw up the top score of the week with a 59, leaving no doubt that he was beating Bad Street, who came in with a 33.9. St. Low Cash puts up a strong 48, but faces Reardon Metal, who's been hot as of late. Reardon Metal wins 55-48. And Jack's Wax Packs, could you say limps into the playoffs? Funk and Punks beat him 49-37. So this creates a standings where Jack's Wax Pack still in the big boy division, wins the division. Fly the flag, Jack. Congratulations. Awesome display. Just a great job all around. In second place, we have 47 Ronan with 8-11. Funk and Punks in third place, also with 8-11. Although 47 Ronan steps above because of the points, which does come into play for the pitching staff picks. And then Blondie, Mr. Blonde's Heroes, with the win, moves to 7-12. In the Bonds division, Lethal Injection with the win, moving to 10-9, an over 500 record. St. Low Cash with the loss, moves to 9-10, and Bad Street at 3-16. And then the McGuire division, so Mission Commission and Reardon Metal, both with wins, both at 14-5. And the Dreamers' loss brings them to 8-11. Jack, I know you've been doing some work, putting some pencil to paper as you always do, and you've figured out the playoff scenarios. I, for one, can't wait to hear. So I'm going to hand the microphone over to you.
Took a while, and in fact, there still some games going on, but it looks like everything's pretty well solidified. The latest thing to get decided was again that McGuire division with Joe and Scott. They're going to finish with the same record, even though they will finish with the same record. Joe is going to end up with the division and thus the number 2 seed, dropping Scotty to the 4 seed. Congratulations,
Joe.
Mike is going to be the 3 seed again. The worst record, but still the 3 seed as the division winner in the Bonds. And then, of course, myself coming out of the Griffey. So the matchups are going to be myself and Scott, the wild card team, and then Joe and Mike will be facing off. I did a little homework. Mike's team is finished season 10-9, Joe 14-5. Joe was almost 3 points better per game than Mike throughout the season. So a little bit of an edge. He's going to get that home field advantage as well. They did face each other twice this season. They split. Week 1, Joe won by a few points, a close game. Week 10, Mikey pulled off the victory by just a point and a half. Reared Metal had 2 streaks this year, a 5 and an 8-game winning streak, one of which is still going on. Mike actually started out 4-0, if you remember.
Oh, yeah.
At the same point, Joe was actually 1-3. So Mike started out 4-0, then he went 4-4, and then he dropped 4 in a row. He had a rough patch there, and then ended up pulling off 2 or 3 at the end. Reardon, as I said, started 1-3, and then went on an 8-game run in the middle of the season, dropped those 2 back-to-back, and then again finished with 5 in a row. Both teams scoring over 50 points this past week. Both teams are 2-4 versus the other 3 playoff teams. In the last 21 days, last 3 weeks, essentially, the pitching staffs, Cleveland has a total score of 23.5. They are actually the best of the playoff staffs in the last 3 weeks. The Nationals 16-6 are the lowest score of the playoff staffs going in. You know, Mike did it with a bunch of guys that nobody else really had a lot of desire with. Chris with a K Davis has been obviously crucial for him. Nelson Cruz and then Rizzo are his guys. Of course, we all know the trades. Not that Joe had a bad team before the trades, but Stanton obviously has propelled him, picking up Posey again up there in the catchers. Of course, Kutch coming back and has been tearing it up the last month. So it's going to be an interesting game, an interesting series. I don't know what you guys think about it specifically now that we actually know that those 2 teams are playing. We got any opinions out there?
Well, I think my preseason prediction that Joe's going to take it all the way is looking good right now. He did have a slow start, but I think he's ridden Kutch's resurgence, overcame that Trout injury. And I was watching a different game today, but they were talking about Stanton going deep again today. And I didn't realize how hot he is. He's had 21 home runs in his last 105 at bat.
Yeah.
That's pretty
35
amazing.
games, I think. Yeah. Ridiculous.
Yeah,
Came out of nowhere.
Well, and you know, who's in his starting lineup and being a stout contributor, but Justin Smoke, you know, formerly my team's namesake as a microcosm of failure, you know, but now here's Justin Smoke risen from the ashes and leading, you know, part of a really strong effort by Joe's team.
I think Joe also, from the national staff this week, he had 11 points. And I think if I'm to look at a weakness in Joe's team, it's the pitching. You know, do you get 11 or do you get 7? I haven't gone back and done the stats, but typically when you get those 7s, you're in a tough spot and you need a lot of hitting to overcome and win and probably some luck against the scores. And the Indians are pretty consistent. And I know, low key, that you're concerned about the Indians and their consistency. Then I look at Mikey's team and I say, geez, you know, a guy named DeJong got him a 7.8. Nelson Cruz got an 8.4, which, you know, Nelson Cruz can do. He can also strain a hammy and be out for 2 weeks. You know, Chris Davis with a K, a 7.4. Good player this year. Again, kind of up and down. Catcher position for him is kind of confusing. I think this is going to be a good fight. I think it's going to go 3. I think one of those 3 may involve the use of the home field advantage where you get 1.5 extra points. I think Joe takes that series in 3.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's Joe's series to take.
It's definitely the team I wanted to play in the first round. I'm a little bit concerned some of my injuries are starting to catch up with me, and I don't have a lot of depth, and my pitching has been all over the place for the last month.
Do you just stick with the Nationals? Do you just stay with them and run?
Yeah, because I got to tell you, when you know, depending on, I mean, if Houston's playing the worst 2 teams in the American League, you know, maybe I take a gamble, but
right,
their drop off in points is almost directly related to Correa going down. As soon as he went down, they started falling apart. Mm-hmm. The Nationals have made a couple of moves. They seem to have gotten a little better. So barring some sort of statistical anomaly, I'll probably stick with them. Mm-hmm. You're only going to go as far as they take you. The other thing I was going to add is that a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting there thinking, boy, if only I hadn't made that trade for Posey and still had Altuve, I would feel better about my infield. And then Contreras goes down. All of a sudden, Posey's a big player on my team again.
Yeah, I was going to point that out. Obviously, I would have to say Joe's the favorite in the series. I expect him to win it as well. All right, so So the other game, much closer. We have the 1 and the 4 seed, Omission coming in as the wild card. However, 14-5 in the regular season. Jack's Wax Packs 14-5 in the regular season. So a matched record. I had 19 coming into today. I believe I had 19 more points than them over 19 weeks. So that is about a point per game better. So very close. We played each other twice. I beat him by 3, 45-42 in week 10 here just recently. He ended my streak, continued his with a 54.4-42 victory. So he beat me up pretty bad in that one. So both teams this season have had 10-game winning streaks. Omission closed the season with theirs. So it is current. Again, kind of a tale of two. Omission actually started out 4-1, then they lost 4 in a row after that. So they went from 4-1 to 4-5, and then have run off 10 in a row since then. So,
jeez,
very Jay Bruce-ish. The Jack's Wax Pack started out 2-3, and then went on that 10 game run and closed out 2-2. Both teams have gone 4-2 versus the other 3 playoff teams. Pitching wise, actually pretty close. A lot closer in the last 21 than the first 21 games. Days of the season. The Dodgers 20.5, the Cardinals 19.2 over those last few weeks.
Really?
Yeah. Omission's had a few guys along the way. The main guy has been Judge. Again, they've had some different guys throughout. Ironically enough, I actually have the top 2 players in the league. They're actually tied for first in Paul Goldschmidt and now Charlie Blackmon. So definitely going to need quite a bit of those 2, in my opinion, to get by these guys. It's going to be a good series. It's 2 good teams. Again, interested to hear what you guys think.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Jack takes this series. The pitching superiority, I think that could be the deciding factor. The home field advantage and the pitching superiority combined with, can't really see Judge's cooling off, but he's slowing down. He's not at a record pace anymore. I give the nod to Jack. I think fate has, I'm not going to pussyfoot around. I think fate has decreed that Jack and Joe meet in the finals.
It certainly wouldn't hurt my feelings.
I think that when you look at Jack's team, he has a lot of players that in real Major League Baseball actually have a lot on the line for their own team. These are veteran players. These are players that know how to manage their energy and to bring it on when they need to bring it on. You look at a Cano, you look at a Blackmon, you look at a Goldschmidt, look at a Longoria. I think maybe in a strange way, the age of his team will actually help him in his fantasy team. I think getting the pitching staff just settled in, quit fucking around with the Cubs, I think is important. Remember, this guy, he's got Jose Bautista on his bench, for Christ's sakes. Nick Castellanos is a nice third baseman that he can plug in should there be an injury. But look at Omission Commission. For Scotty, it's all about that Cardinals staff. We talked about the streak. The streak happened when the Cardinals started to settle down and win, and that consistency has helped him through the ups and downs. I mean, he's done a great job of picking up some players. Dozier, I think, is big. But the reality is that Judge won him at least 2 games. We know that for a fact. Or at least I know that for at least one fact. There have been articles about Judge having strikes called unfairly against him. I think that's fucking bullshit. I think that the league is adjusted. I think the Red Sox figured it out 2.5 months ago and were able to execute on it, and the rest of the team is following. It just, the composition of that team just doesn't seem to make a believer out of me. So I'm going Jack again in 3. I don't think the home field advantage points will come into play. But I do think it will be another Jack versus Joe game, World Series, and then we can talk about who we'll think win there once we find out who actually makes it, since I'm fucking wrong every time. Sorry, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, all year long, not all year long, but earlier in the year, I said that with Scott's players, as good as they were playing, they were young, and some of them were just newly stepping into full-time roles. And you look at Scotty's bench, and it's not deep. You got Pham down there. You got some other guys who aren't exactly scary prospects to do damage on a weekly basis.
Hey. Benintendi is scary down there at a 7.2.
Yeah, well, he's handsome as hell. That's for sure. He hasn't lost any of his looks.
Sure is.
But again, with Judge slowing down, Shaw, the Jack's veteran players, they've been through the grind of 162 games. They've been in these mid to late August games. They know how to condition themselves. And maybe judges, maybe they are adjusting to him. I don't think it's the umpiring. Maybe they are adjusting to him. Or maybe he's just a young guy who's never dealt with this grind of this many games in the spotlight, in a playoff race. Whereas, to your earlier point, Tim, Jack's players are all veterans, and they can kind of they know when they're well, and they know when they need a rest, and they seem to be taking care of themselves.
Well, beautiful. I think it's going to be an exciting playoffs, and Balkers, we are committed to taking you week by week through the playoff games for the next 6 weeks. We have what it is. It's a best of 3 series, and there'll be 2 series, so it could be as short as 4 weeks or as long as 6 weeks, but we will be there for every game to take that to you. And let's go ahead and refresh our drinks, gentlemen, and we'll be back, and we're going to have a great guest. We're going to talk to Scotty, the Mission Commission, talk to him about a few different things, including his thoughts on the playoffs. Okay, Balkers, welcome back. We have Omission Commission owner Scotty on the call, and we wanted to get his thoughts on the playoffs. But before we get there, Scotty, I know you and I had a chance to talk, and you were bringing up parts of our conversation heard on the podcast last week, and you felt that we were probably pussyfooting around a little bit, and you had some opinions as to what we were talking about. So we're all thinking it'd be great to hear your thoughts on that and maybe talk about it a bit.
So question number 1 to this group. Did you guys have a follow-up conversation earlier on the podcast tonight? Anybody say anything that was maybe left unsaid on the prior podcast?
No, I actually told them what you said. I said that you said that Swag was pussyfooting around, that Greg was just really kind of opposing Swag, and that Joe was the only one that really had any strong things to say.
That's an accurate statement. I just thought that you started getting somewhere into an interesting conversation, and no one took an extreme stance. I was waiting for a debate. I thought you guys were setting up well for a really nice argument, and it turned into just a retelling of the tale, retelling of the story over and over without really getting anywhere. So are we going to legislate this, or are we going to agree that hey, it's survival of the fittest out there, and we are going to let people make their own choices? And I to your point, I think Joe is the only one that took a libertarian stance on the matter and said, hey, that's what he wants to do. That's what he wants to do. So I wanted, and I know Greg a little bit from over the years, and I know Tim. I kept waiting for Tim to drop the hammer and really carve out a debate to kind of go at it and take side.
I think the tough thing for me is that Tim mentioned it last week. Dustin is the person who I know. I don't know well. I was going to say I know least, but I don't know LJ very well or Mikey very well, really. But I don't want to take a strong position on what his motive might be. As far as taking a strong position on whether or not you should be allowed to do it, I can see both arguments. There's a lot of things that contributed to that situation, or maybe it was nothing at all, but you should play to win. I do believe that firmly.
I think you're proving his point, though, aren't you? You just, you're not saying anything. You're like, I could go either way.
No,
But I could. I mean, that's the thing. It's an unwritten rule. No, I think you should play to win. But,
right.
I don't know that he's not doing that. That's what I mean. I think it might have just been bad baseball.
About 2 different things. That's part of the problem. The conversation kept going back and forth with 2 different conversations. So conversation 1 is, should you put your best lineup in every week? That's an absolute yes, in my opinion. There's no debating. There's
and I
no
agree.
on the fence, and we've kind of made it to the case within everyone's kind of agreeing to it. There's this one person that's kind of on the outskirts, which I don't know personally if he knows knows that that's what we want in the league, at least majority-wise, if not unanimously. If he thought that it was okay to try to lose, and then that's cool. Then I'm cool with it. Then let's educate him. And hopefully everyone agrees. Now, if somebody wants to stand up and argue that, then we have a whole nother discussion, and I'd be happy to get into that too.
Essentially, we as a group are going to say, hey, that's not your best lineup. We're going to make you win, or we're going to make you lose, or we're going to penalize you in some way, right? We're going to take away a player pick from you next year because you put in a shitty lineup.
Well, I don't want to do that. No, I don't think it. I don't expect it would come to that, and it hasn't had to up until this point. Until this point, everyone that is in the group and within the league has gone, you know what, you're right. That makes sense. I'm going to do that. It seems like the right thing to do. If somebody wanted to defy it, or say no, this is what I want to do, then we'd have to discuss it, as a league and make it known, because right now the assumption is the opposite. Where you do get into pussyfooting is the ranking of players. There's definitely a level of player where you have no right to say anything to anyone about who they're putting in their fucking lineup. But there's a tier of players, and that particular tier was what I was talking about. Those top guys that are expected to be in there. This particular player was one of them.
But who decides that? Who's the top tier? Like Who's the arbiter of the top tier?
Yeah, there's the slippery slope.
Yeah, and it is the slippery slope, and this is where it kind of kept going back and forth. You're right. At some point, who's the last guy and who's the first guy that doesn't necessarily matter. I couldn't tell you. I could make a list, I guess, personally, of who I thought was the case, but you usually don't see it. It generally doesn't happen, so it really has never come into play, and there's never been a need for a rule. I don't want a need for a rule.
I think before we talk about intervening, I think Tim's right. We need just to reach out to players or our fellow competitors and just call them out on that sort of thing, because I don't think it is pervasive. Scott, what was your opinion on that? I mean, you were fired up that we didn't have strong opinions, but what is your opinion? Where do you stand on that stuff?
I'm more with Joe, and I don't think you can govern with unwritten rules. Either you have a rule or there is no rule. And so I would say let guys do what they're going to do. It's going to impact certainly their season and potentially other seasons this season if they're going to kind of soft play a lineup. There are ways to soft play your lineup without making it look like you're soft playing your lineup, right? You can trade away, you can drop, you can do other things. You can do other things.
Pick up the Pirates, that's right.
And this is where I thought the discussion was really interesting, because there were all these other intricacies. There are ways that I hadn't even, and thank you for educating me. There were ways that I hadn't even really considered. Next season, if I'm heading into week 19 and I am 5-14 and I want to try and get a top draft pick, I'm probably going to try and soft play my lineup without making it look like I'm soft playing my lineup. So it might as well just let me do it, right? It might as well unhinge me, let me do what I want to do and achieve my own objectives. The other side of the game is trying to achieve to win. Maybe I want to achieve to lose.
Scott, you're considering soft playing the playoffs, aren't you? So you can lock in that 7th pick next year.
Yeah. Oh, my team's like dying on the vine right now.
You might as well. That would be the smart play. That would be the fiscally responsible play.
Actually, that'd be fiscally irresponsible if we want to do a game theory on this one. He's got to fucking win it now.
I have a shot, right?
There's a lot of money in that kitty.
Yeah.
There isn't a team that's playing that doesn't have a shot at it. They're all strong contenders.
Okay, so going back to this whole discussion, though, and I'm curious about Jack's opinion on this. So would it be a bigger transgression if you were soft playing? I think we've coined a new term tonight, soft playing. If you were soft playing...
pussyfooting.
If you were, to use Scott's term, pussyfooting, if you're consistently giving up on the season and you're underplaying your hand, let's say, that's just your strategic plan as an owner. But it would be a lot worse, though, if you started saying, well, you know what, I'm so pissed off at that Joe, so I'm going to lay down this week and let the Dreamers beat me. That would be much, much worse.
Right.
And to Joe and Scott's point, if your strategy is like, listen, it's week 7, I've given up on this year. I'm not going to put in minor leaguers into my starting lineup, but I'm going to play guys who probably aren't going to score a lot of points anyway, and I'm going to really vie for that top 1 or 2 draft pick next year. As long as you're doing that consistently, I guess there'd be some honor in that, right? or not.
It gets weird, right? Because I think we brought up the Chris with a C, Davis trade and what happened there. And so
right.
Essentially what the unwritten rule is really don't fuck with the teams that are trying to get into the playoffs. That's really what it is. And so we're giving dominance to inside the season to the teams that are still in the race. So if you're getting lapped, put your best lineup out there. What I'm hearing is there's a strong libertarian bent in the league to just allow someone to put active players in, manage your team, but we're not going to say you should put Freddie Freeman in, even if we think that's what you should be putting in. And I think that Jack is less on the fence. I think Jack came out tonight and said, no, I think we actually should. And the problem would be, how the fuck do you design something like that? I know it when I see it. Like, holy shit, that's a tough one.
And we've allowed it. Like I said, we've allowed it. It's not something that's coming to play throughout the course of a season, or it's the game by game decisions, or the day by day decisions. Again, was Tim's team better at the end of the season than it was at the beginning of the season? No. The playoff teams that played Tim's towards the end benefit in that aspect, yes, or should have, essentially, by the fact that he had less firepower towards the end of the season. And that's something that is known and assumed and kind of played. Even then, Tim's putting a full lineup in and was winning games and
yeah, because I didn't want to.
Yeah, this all. I mean, I'm sure it's been done. I'm sure that somewhere. But like I said, it's not something that even really comes up or is addressed unless it's so, or at least appears to be so out of whack. And like I said, we've gotten this far without it coming up. So if anyone is doing any of those things, they're doing it well enough or softly enough that it's not really, raising any flags. Freeman, it was, just again, one of those players that raised a flag. Well,
let's be honest, though, what really raised the flag, we wouldn't even be talking about this. We'd be chalking up this whole thing to bad baseball were it not for the fact that there was some question about the Dreamers franchise and what was going to happen to them.
Correct. Right. No,
right.
That started the whole, right. There was a new owner. And then, so now you're immediately concerned, not that he wasn't a part before, but he wasn't, the only owner. So, ownership is a concern. You want to make sure that everyone is, attentive. And
well, we were worried about a zombie team. And so we were all kind of looking
interest.
I mean, I look at the games, but I don't scrutinize every personnel move for an injury. But because we all had that fear of the zombie team on our minds, we were looking at it a little more closely, and then it made us scratch our heads a little bit.
Yeah, Joe, did Scotty assess your position well, that you think, fuck it, it's just it is what it is?
Well, I think that's always going to be my point of view, especially when you're paying money to play. You should be allowed to make your decisions unless there's a rule. On the other side of it, though, I am completely in line with Greg's way of thinking. That's the way I've always approached my games. When I'm out of it, I'm still trying to win every week.
In my opinion, there's two ways of doing this. Number one is the rule simply is everybody do your best every week, whether you're in it or not. Put in your best lineup every week. If everybody does that, if you don't do it while you're looking at your lineup and you're the only one that knows you're not doing it, then you got away with one, whatever. If you make it too crazy, then somebody will bring it up and you get called out. I mean, that's the punishment, right? You get called out. That's what's happening.
Pretty much.
Hey, what are you doing? The other is, what about the possibility of a lottery for the non-playoff teams for draft the next year? Now, you're not guaranteed, by losing, you're going to be 3 or 4, or, you just have a better chance at that point.
No, I fucking love that. Let's do it this coming year.
No, not this year.
No, totally this year.
Soon. We'd have to put it in.
No. I actually think. We have a great idea. No.
We can't change rules in the middle of the season.
We're not. Okay. It's next season. It's a great rule. I think that rule is fucking awesome, and I know that Chris will support me on this. Chris, I know you're listening right now. Let's lock arms and make this happen. This is a great fucking idea.
It is something to consider for the future. It's
funny that Jack brought up the lottery, because I think the root of all this problem is the pitching staff situation, right? It's a keeper league, so you grow your prospects, you manage your players, and then a huge chunk comes down to the pitching staff.
Right.
And that's the incentive, right, for bad behaviors.
20 to 23% of your scoring. Yeah.
So it would make sense to either do some kind of a lottery, mix it up, or change the scoring to reduce the impact of the draft pick a little bit. And maybe the problem's gotten worse because we've brought in more teams. And so, there's a big gap between the top few pitching. Basically, if you get a great pitching staff, you've got a shot at having a decent season. And if you get a 6 or 7 or lower, your chances of being able to have a winning season and a shot at the playoffs is much less.
Sometimes, until you find out that Jack picked up the Dodgers at what, 7th? 7th.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I think this league is so active into the last third of the season is because there are incentives to pay attention, to keep trading, to keep doing the things you need to do, and because next year you got a shot.
The assumption is that you're not going to have that much movement from year to year on the players, which obviously does happen.
Right.
But so you give them the opportunity. So
joking aside, the lottery is actually the first thing I heard that gets at it fucks up the game theory.
It de-incentivizes the race to the bottom.
Bingo.
Right? And so that's what I'd like to see.
That statement assumes that there was an incentive that we were all racing for the bottom who weren't making the playoffs. The bottom.
Your incentive with your comment right now is you have the first pitching staff pick next year.
Well, no,
so anything
true.
you say about the lottery is going to be tainted
but I wasn't
by the
racing to the bottom. You know what I mean?
No, not everyone's going to adopt the race to the bottom, but there are people that may feel that pull, right?
Maybe we don't know
that.
If everyone voted for a lottery, I'd live with it. This is supposed to be fun and collegial. I'd live with that.
I vote.
But but if we do that,
not this season.
Yes,
not this season.
Not this season.
No.
2018 season,
yes.
Not the 2017 season. That draft's already done.
Well,
the 2018 season.
Whatever. But the other thing I think we should consider though is a serpentine draft.
Nah, I fucking hate that. You talked to me about that before. You gave me a year to think about that. I don't like it.
Oh well, look at Tim.
Well, you're just the serpentine draft.
Megalomaniac Moscato there with. No, I've thought about it. No, we don't know not to.
Dismissed. No, it's
Commissioner
again, the
ruling.
whole point of the draft
Kim Jong-un is
to
commissioner here.
The losing teams and because our player draft has gotten to the point where there's very little benefit in the player draft for that season. Every now and then you'll snatch a guy or you'll grab a guy and hope that he turns into a Zimmerman for that season. But the only real possibility of a drastic addition to your team in the draft is the staff. So
I think we call this the favorable randomness rule, and that we have a lottery, and we at the beginning of every year for the pitching staffs. I absolutely we can do it in 2019. I don't care, but I love the idea because it deals directly with the incentive we're talking about, and we call it.
It would certainly but it would change, and I don't care, but it would change some in-season trading, some deals because.
Yeah. It wouldn't. It would not.
Yes,
No. Check this out. Basically, every losing team has a share in the lottery. So the 4 playoff teams would pick in the end. However,
correct.
You could trade your share in that lottery. So I could collect 3 shares in a lottery of 6 teams.
Right.
So one of your ping pong balls you're trading.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct. Yeah, we would have to figure out what that number.
That still would be a change.
It would change it. Correct. But it wouldn't stop it by any means. It would just change.
There's still a market. There's still a market,
absolutely.
but that market would be priced effectively.
But there's a difference between knowing for sure that I'm getting Pops as number 1 pick and knowing that I'm getting a greater chance to get that number 1 pick. It's different, and it's fun too, but it is different.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. And you've traded for the first pick the last 3 years, right? So this is kind of a move.
I think so. Yeah.
So I think Scotty kind of had a deeper kind of approach to try to hamstring you in this little method that you've got going on.
He's bitter. He's always been jealous of me.
Bitter. Those Cubs.
So, Scotty, are you going to win it all or someone else?
It's not looking like it right now.
Sure.
The Cardinals tanked today. My first baseman's on the DL. Judge has gotten figured out by the league. I'm struggling.
You're the bizarro world Jack Swagger, Scotty.
With the playoff matchups are set. So it is Joe and Lethal Injection. You actually ended up in 4th place as the wild card. So you are playing Jack's Wax Packs. So it is you and Jack. So Jack is the home team for 2 of those 3 games. He gets 1.5 points, if you remember from your first time in the playoffs.
Oh, I forgot about that.
He gets the 2-run home run, the 2.5-run home run. For week 1, and if needed, week 3, and then you get it in week 2. So you are going up against Jack's Wax Packs. Now, if you take a look at Jack's Wax Packs for the last 5 weeks, you've had better points than he has. We all showed Scotty respect and then shit all over his chances, right? Is that?
Well, we looked at the fact that Shaw is hurt, and that just what he said. He just covered all most of our points. That Shaw is hurt and Judge is not cooled off, but slowing down.
And one other factor that there was some talk about age coming into it, which oddly enough, talking about Scotty specifically and age and my old guys, but at this point, again, we're talking about a 3-week season. So yes, does the experience, the fact that they've been through the rigors of the season, so on and so forth, come into play and to my benefit at this point in a short 3-game season?
Unquestionably, you have the most handsome outfielder of the two teams, Scotty, on your team.
High HQ.
But how
I got Chuck Nasty
to the run? We won't know until we actually see it.
How cool would it be to get the 10 of us in a room and have a couple beers, talk baseball, be dorks with our shirts that say High HQ, and just have a good weekend?
I would be down for that.
The reality is,
I would travel to wherever. We could do Florida 1 year, and
we can go to Branson. Split the difference.
There you go.
I'm not going to Branson. I've been there.
So Joe Neil Stevenson low key will not be going. So the
not to Branson.
Not to Branson. He's been in Missouri.
I'll go to Springfield, but not Branson.
Oh. Well, we could do Florida next year and then Phoenix the year after, and we could kind of make it a thing.
When I beat Jack, I'll be in the money this year, and so I'm going to set that aside for my trip.
Ooh.
10:28. Yeah.
He was writing it down.
You're writing it down, Jack?
He's going to mail it to me and tell me to eat that shit in a few weeks.
I don't know, man. I don't know that I think we all said Jack in 3, which meant that we were pretty hesitant. It's the first time we've had 3 teams that have 14 wins going into the playoffs too.
Yeah, great season, Scott. I mean, we didn't say it, but great season.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yep.
Thanks, guys. It's been a lot of fun. Surprising season. I definitely got lucky a few times, but a few of my prospects are starting to do some fun stuff. So I really enjoyed this year.
I did break down some of the numbers of our guests. So obviously both of our teams, 14-5, were within a point per week of the season as far as our points go. Both of us had 10-game winning streaks this year. Yours is closed the season, so you're still actually on it. Both of us were 4-2 versus the other 3 playoff teams. Both of our staffs, which had been my big push for most of the season, but over the last 3 weeks, both of our staffs are within a point as well. So it's set up to be a very close game, and I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, you had a hell of a year. The fact that again, 3 of us, we have. I was going to say, for a second, I thought that you might have had the best wild card record ever, but there was a year where Tim and I think, finished 16-3 and 15-4 back to back in the same division. But still, 14-5 is obviously a solid season. And again, to have 3 of us at that record, and then the 4th team to drop 60 on the way into the playoffs, it's going to be interesting.
Jack's talking about pitching staff, Scott. Tim shared with us that you had confided in him that you thought perhaps you did wait too long to make an end of the year pitching staff move or some type of move. You want to comment on that?
I don't know exactly why. I think I was just cautious. And as I was talking to different people, Pops and Dusty, they wanted a lot. So I was really struggling with giving up a top tier prospect or player for a playoff run. And I think I paused, and it definitely cost me, even to have had a second staff in like the Yankees or the Diamondbacks, certainly given me some confidence, a little more confidence than I have right now heading into the playoffs. So I think it was a miss. I think it was a tremendous learning opportunity for me this year. And Tim's given me grief a couple times over the last few weeks. Just you got to move at this point in the season, and I learned that this year for the first time. Every year, I'm learning something more, and I'm getting deeper. And I think this was kind of my bar mitzvah year, my bat mitzvah year, whatever you call it. Like, this was the year that I finally feel like now I'm in the league. I've been in for quite a few seasons now, and I'm figuring out kind of these last rookie mistakes, and I'm getting them behind me. So, yes, I think it's fair to say that I made some mistakes on the pitching staff piece heading into the playoffs. I should have been looking forward to the playoffs a little bit more proactively, and I didn't do that.
If this was your bat mitzvah year, do you want to comment on your bris year?
I don't know my bris year. What was that? My first? Is that when they snip
I don't
you?
know. Yeah,
That's when they snip you.
Ritual circumcision. What year was that?
That was basically Tim saying, "Give me your money, it'll be okay."
You'll enjoy this soon. At some point, you'll start.
You're gonna have fun.
Oh my god!
You know,
Oh shit! Oh man.
I don't think that the pitching staff. I don't like I said, the Cardinals have been better than expected coming in. I don't think that's going to affect you as much. If and again, we'll see. You never know. Chris could have made a call a few times, and a couple of them would have got him into the postseason. And would that have been better? Again, you just don't know. If he had made the postseason, lost, and then as soon as he lost, he would have been upset that he had given up Jorge Alfaro or whoever those other young guys are. The big one may end up being, and obviously the one to pay attention to is going to be Charlie Blackmon, who is now tied with Paul Goldschmidt as the best player in the league. So the fact that we were both on the phone at the same time trying to make that decision, and he ended up on one or the other. Again, not saying that will put me over, but shit, at this point, the way some of my other guys are playing, I'm going to need him to put me over. But we'll see how that one turns out.
I think he has 7 games at Coors Field this week too. That's really, I forgot about that, Jack, where you two were really talking both at the same time for Blackmon. That was the Trey Turner deal that went down. And I think it was on the other side, it was Benintendi and Bregman. It's super interesting. I know, Scott, it hurt to see Blackmon play against you in the regular season. Wait till the fucking playoffs.
I know. But again, these are great. I feel like I'm just going through my learning curve. And It's been a tremendous opportunity this late season. I've had a number of decisions that I've had to make that I haven't, frankly, had to make in prior years. So this has been really cool.
And it's not an exact science either. You can throw me in the middle of that Blackmon stuff too, because Tim, you offered me Stanton and Blackmon instead of Stanton and Betts.
Correct.
And I wanted Betts.
Correct.
So, there is that too.
It's a good call. I wonder if Jack would have done Betts. That's interesting, because that's what I was betting on. Huh. Would you have, Jack? That's hard to say now,
I don't know.
Right?
It is hard to say. I would be less likely than someone. I'm more likely to take the 30-something-year-old,
Right.
But I don't know. It's a tough one.
But
you also didn't have Trout to offer him either. So.
Yeah, no. He's saying in the Turner deal. I don't know that I would have, honestly. Stanton, yes, obviously. Blackmon, yes. I don't. I like Betts, I do. But I like Turner a lot as well.
That's fascinating. So, Scotty, you've been in the league for several years. This is your second time in the playoffs.
The podcast definitely changes everything. This has been a really cool experience to be on the call and to be able to listen to it, brag to my kids that, hey, you can download my voice on iTunes. It's really cool.
So just a little bit, we discussed early on I think it was the first month of our podcasting, that the fact that we're talking about a team or a game that we're competing in at the time against each other, right? And you said that it's really opened your eyes. Joe has talked about it opening his eyes as well. What has the podcast specifically done for you? Is it more thinking about theory? Is it more, I think Greg mentioned once that it's about taking inventory of your teams, or, you hear Jack break things down in a very analytical way in terms of how he looks at this, or, what have you taken from the podcast besides some cringeworthy jokes?
So before, it was essentially me looking at a computer screen a few times a week, trying to pick. But now you've added so much texture because there are stories going on now that I'm picking up on. I'm hearing. I don't listen to every podcast, but I've been listening more and more.
Jesus Christ.
Got 3 kids and a commute.
That sounds like an excuse.
No, but I'm really gravitating to the podcast because I'm enjoying hearing about the other guys in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing about how we debate rules. I love that. It's really interesting to me. So
you and Joe have you and Jack have a budding bromance going on too. I mean, I definitely, it's everybody.
There's
has
no one else
on.
I'd rather play in the playoffs. Let me just say
Oh my God.
Oh, geez.
Right. I think a bouquet of roses are coming your way. So I like that, but adding texture, right? So what you're saying is that, so when I first was brought into the league, when Jack brought me in, we worked in a phone room. Almost all of us worked side by side. So we had this, and a big part of doing the podcast was to try in some way to recreate a bit of that. And I think hearing you say that says, hey, at least on a certain level, we did achieve that. And that's really exciting. And some of the narratives were baseball related, some of them not so much. But that's really cool to hear you say that, and that it brought people alive to you. Although I will say these guys are playing characters. They're actually much different in real life.
I don't think that's the case. Come on, Tim.
Well, all right.
You are much more of an asshole off the air.
I was gonna say, yeah, I'm a bigger dick.
I will say that maybe parts of our personality become exaggerated through the lens of this. So do you think we should take this through the playoffs? Do you think we should continue to do this? Yeah.
Absolutely. That's why everybody's tuning in. They want to see what happens.
Right.
Does anybody else have any questions for Scotty? Comments?
Yeah, I got a few, but I'm going to hold them for
knowing he's not going to answer.
He's writing them down.
Favorable randomness to you, sir.
Good luck, Scott.
Thanks, gentlemen. Really appreciate once again being on the show, and it's been a great season. Greg, I wish you more luck next year.
Thanks, man. I'll take it.
And I did miss the Cubs offer too along the way. That was a mistake.
It's all right. It's okay.
I will
you know what?
admit to that.
The Cardinals are kicking butt week after week after week. I'm not so sure you made a mistake.
That's right. After this week, we'll be sure.
We'll know. We will know.
Well, favorable randomness to you, my friend. Thank you for being on this. I know it's tough Sunday nights to get on this call, so thank you for making that happen. We love you, and let's trade Benintendi over the break. Talk to you later, buddy.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye, Scott.
Welcome back. I just want to say that Steve Phillips is an asswipe.
I heard that he can only get an erection when he kills drifters. That's the only way that guy can get.
I heard the same thing.
Weird. That's weird stuff, isn't it?
I hear that he fucking tortures interns and makes them listen to obscure podcasts about baseball, steals their fucking material, and then throws it up on XM radio. You hear that? I
mean, Cialis, for Christ's sake. You don't need to kill a drifter anymore, bro.
Exactly.
It's Cialis.
Exactly. Or some sort of
thrill of the hunt.
Arthritis medicine. Fuck you, Steve Phillips.
He drafted Lastings Millage. Ugh.
So Scotty brought up a great... he fucking did, that piece of shit.
Probably met him at a Christmas orgy.
Oh, Jesus, Joe.
How many drifters died that night?
Oh my God.
Smell of peppermint.
Well, we're not pussyfooting around.
No.
Where's your drink, Tim?
Fuck. For those of you listening, there has been a drinking game going on. Number of times anytime anyone says pussyfoot, I have to drink.
Put in yourself. So drink away.
Fuck. Okay. Great. Fuck Steve Phillips. I know he's stealing our shit.
Yeah, Steve Phillips was the GM for the Mets back in the 90s. You know, I visited New York for the first time back in the 90s. I was right out of college.
Mm-hmm.
You guys remember Woodstock 94? The first time they brought Woodstock back after the 60s?
Yeah.
Yep. For sure.
I was one of the suckers who ponied up. I think it was like $150 ticket back in the 90s.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I was probably making $300 a week, so that was half a week's pay for me. And so we get to Woodstock on a Friday, and there's all these rules. It's heightened security. They didn't want a repeat of what happened, 30 years earlier for some reason. It became so iconic. It was the 25-year anniversary. So we had to park like 5 miles from the actual concert venue. You parked your vehicle, and then you took a bus in to the show. And once we got there, we were informed by these, security people that you weren't allowed to take any kind of a tent that had stakes that you pounded into the ground because there was a fear that they would use them as weapons. And so, of course, we were totally unprepared for this. And so my brother, the outdoorsman, had this little pup tent, one-man tent that didn't have tent stakes, but the rest of us were screwed. But off we went. And, we weren't allowed to have beer, of course. And so we get by the time the bus dropped us off at the front gates, this was the first night. The thing had only been open for an hour, and all the fences had already been torn down. And so immediately the fact that we'd paid for these tickets was rendered meaningless. We get inside the venue, and we are fucked up beyond belief because we've been drinking all of our beer in the parking lot because we thought we couldn't take it in. So we weren't going to leave it behind. We drank it all. We were stumbling drunk. We get into the venue. First night was beautiful. It was really fun. Great weather, summer weather, August. We all just kind of slept on the ground, passed out on the ground, woke up the next day. So I'm in my early 20s. I'm looking to, the thought of romance wasn't something that was, off the I wanted to find some romance, let's put it that way. And so day 2, fairly hungover, but the exuberance of youth was fueling me, and we were walking around. And guys, I don't know if you ever did this, but back at that age, I had certain T-shirts that I consider to be my best T-shirts, the T-shirts that were most flattering on me, that were the coolest T-shirts.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay. So I had one of those T-shirts on, and I thought to myself, man, you are looking good. This is a target-rich environment. You're gonna get lucky here, buddy. And if you recall, this Woodstock was the muddy Woodstock. On MTV, they showed all these kids jumping in the mud, having a great time, getting totally covered in mud. Let me tell you, that was by far the minority. There was like 10% of those maniacs trying to get muddy. The rest of us were just trying to stay clean. And I remember it was probably 10 or 11 the second day, and I had my beautiful T-shirt on that I was so sure was going to get me laid. It was only a gentle sprinkle at that point, and there was a few random mud puddles. But some dick, like 20 feet from me, jumped into a mud puddle, and, it was like in slow motion. This tiny quarter-sized dollop of mud. I tracked it through the air, arcing high in the air, and it landed right on my beautiful, pristine T-shirt. And I was like, fuck, my day is ruined. Little did I know what was in store for me. I was like, oh, fuck, this sucks, man. And so my day was off to not a good start. And then, of course, the rule about the tents, that was out the window. Of course, there was beer everywhere. And there was this tiny little beer distributor across the street from the gate getting into the venue. And of course, the wait was like 3.5 hours. Like there was, I'm not exaggerating, thousands of people lined up to buy cases of beer because we'd all left it behind. And we waited. We were sure.
Wow.
So we waited in line. We paid, I think it was like $50 a case. And again, this was the 90s. I was making $300 a week, but sure, we bought as much beer as we could carry. And then throughout the course of the day, the rain set in. And it was just pouring down rain. And I'm talking, guys, there's no seats. There's no chairs. We didn't bring anything to sit on. We didn't have any blankets. Our whole plan was just to sit on the ground, and the ground was liquid all of a sudden. So imagine how exhausted you would be if the moment you woke up in a particular day and you stood up, that was the last time you were going to sit down until you went to bed that night. Because there was just nowhere to sit. And so it was my dilemma was, either sit in like in a shallow puddle of mud or stand all day. And I didn't like getting dirty, so I was going to stand all damn day. We go through the day. It was great music. The bands that were there. I mean, Metallica was great. Bob Weir was great. Primus was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Even Salt and Pepper were great. That was the second day. There was a lot of good bands. But eventually, it was time to go to sleep. It was like 2 a.m. I'd been standing since 7 a.m, drinking, doing other things that were, weighing on me. And so, again, I was afraid I would drown because it was literally like everywhere was mud. And so I begged my older brother to let me sleep in his one-man tent with him. And reluctantly, he finally agreed. The next morning, I wake up in my brother's pup tent and I unzip the zipper to get outside. And my brother's like, Greg, hand me my boots. And so I looked and there was no boots to be seen because, in fact, the path or the little de facto path was a fast moving stream now. Like there was water flooding past us. It was like a lava flow of mud. And I was like, dude, your fucking boots are gone, bro.
Downstream.
Yeah. He was like, oh God, what am I going to do? I'm like, I guess you're going to be barefoot for the rest of the weekend. He was like, no, I have an extra pair of shoes back in the truck. And I was like, that's like 5 miles away. So I walked 5 miles back to get my brother's extra shoes. And I, found my friends and we all walked back together. My brother sat in his tent while I walked the 5 miles each way. And so, it only got worse from there. Like I couldn't tell where the outhouses began and the mud puddles ended. It was there were, imagine there was hundreds of thousands. I don't know how many people were there. It was a lot of, maybe 100,000 people or more, maybe 1 million people. And there was just endless rows of porta potties, but it was also, there wasn't a dry inch of earth anywhere. It was all like calf deep mud. And you were walking through there. You were walking to the food vendors. And that was back to my vegetarian period. What's that, Jack?
I hope the porta potties were downstream from where you guys set up shop.
We were on a little hill where we set up shop, but then we quickly.
It's a good strategic position.
Well, so I was drinking, I was doing other things, and that was back in my vegetarian days, and I was pretty strict with myself. So all I had to eat for those 3 days was popcorn, and my brother would give me the buns off his hot dogs, and he would eat the hot dog, and I would eat the bun.
Because all the grass was underwater. So
there was no grass. It was all gone. It was all like a river of mud. And so, I consider that still to be my Vietnam. I developed my 1,000-yard stare that weekend.
Your favorite source, Wikipedia, estimated the attendance at 550,000.
Holy shit!
It was crazy, and I'm not exaggerating. There was 10% of the people who were just going fucking crazy with the mud, jumping in it, rolling in it, swimming in it, slithering in it, and the rest of us were like half-heartedly tiptoeing around, trying to enjoy the music while, not surrendering to the mud. Like, that third day when I stood up and got outside of my brother's tent, there was no way I was going to have anywhere to sit for 15 or 16 hours. It was terrible.
The only thing at all that I remember about that wasn't there a band that everybody in the audience started throwing mud pies at them
Green
or something?
Day. Yeah, it was Green Day. But, me, I wasn't there trying to get muddy. I was trying to preserve my nice T-shirt so I could get a little. But I couldn't. It was terrible. So that's my story.
Do you still have that T-shirt?
No, I retired it. I retired all those clothes after I got back out. I'll look for the picture. There's a picture of us getting back into the car after those 3 days, and we covered from head to toe in mud.
Did you enjoy the shows?
Absolutely. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. I saw. Actually, I just brought my son to his first Metallica show last month, and I was lucky enough. I actually got to see Metallica, the Big Four they called Megadeth, at Slayer, and Anthrax at Yankee Stadium, which was an awesome show. But I'm guessing, I could be wrong. I know each of you guys have a storied history with Mr. Moscato. but I'm guessing that I'm the only one that has actually, speaking of concerts, that has actually seen Tim mosh at a live show. We back in the day, we actually went and they I think they had some association with Green Day. Now that you met, but Goldfinger was the band, and we went and saw them at a little dive in where the hell was West Palm?
West Palm Beach.
Yeah, West Palm Beach, a little dive, and they got going and just a lot of energy. Honestly, as much energy as any Pantera show I've been to, any show I've been to. It was the whole place just started rocking back and forth and bouncing up and down. And all of a sudden I turn around and off the stage comes Moscato with diving into the pit. I said, there you go. That's rock and roll, baby. And he did well out there. I don't know what you guys would have considered, but he actually did well out there. I was impressed.
Well, I need more details on this. So, what year approximately were you talking about?
It was probably, this would have been 94, 95. We saw him in a club that was probably, I can't remember the name of the club. It wasn't West Palm Beach. It was actually Palm Beach. It was a little rougher. Jack got the tickets. He's like, hey, man, like, I know we like the same music. You want to go see Goldfinger? Great SoCal punk band, like totally legitimate. Just go back and listen to the music. It's for real. And it's the reason they're kind of connected with Green Day is Green Day was kind of accused of ripping off their vibe. Mm-hmm. Like, so Green Day took it and softened it up a little and made a ton of money, where Goldfinger were legit.
A little harder.
And so harder basically we go there and it's so LJ was with us. I'm trying to think, there was another person I can't remember. And then you had your girlfriend at the time. So you kind of had to, once it started getting nutty, like you had to go back. And I really enjoyed hardcore music, and I was young, I liked I won't say violence of it, but the energy, the kinetic energy of it. And I did do some stage diving. What I remember from that show, though, is it was actually, in fact, the last time I moshed, because I was 25 years old. So I was not really young anymore. And although I love the music, I found myself, what happened was there was some skinheads at the club, and what they had done is they had spread out in a circle around the pit and were weeding people out. And what they did was they stood on the circle with their left arms up and their elbows out, and anytime anyone came close to them, they'd hit him in the back of the head or the back of the neck. Yep. And so it got to a point where there were few people left in the circle, and you had to fight your way out. Which I did, and I was fine, and I ruined a fucking great pair of fucking Vans. It was sad, but the reality was,
did you carry your surf style jacket?
I was just t-shirt and jeans. It was cool, and it was fun, and I enjoyed the rest of the show. I was bruised up a little, I'm sure I took some medicine to make sure I felt good on the way home. And but the reality is that was it. That was it. That was my last mosh pit experience, and so it was a great show. I remember it to this day. That's so funny, and thank you for bringing that up. But to me, that was it. I'd been to Lollapalooza in 91, Lollapalooza in 92, and that's when I saw Pearl Jam and realized that they just suck. So it was, I saw Pearl Jam, and I saw Rage Against the Machine and Soundgarden, right? And Ice Cube in the middle. Primus was the lead set. So it was insane for guys our age. This was like the show. It was 91. It was when Hurricane Andrew, if you know South Florida history, wiped out Miami. We were in Orlando at the time. Yeah, it was awesome, and that's when I realized Pearl Jam. They looked uncomfortable up there, and then Rage came on after them and just destroyed them. And then Soundgarden came on after them, and they were insanely good. And then Primus was all right, but and then Ice-T was great. But yeah, good times, man.
So the next time you were in a moshing situation, you had already made the conscious decision that, you know what, my moshing days have passed me by. no more moshing for me.
I still would go to some shows where there was, again, kinetic energy, right? But I never mixed it up. I was kind of a violent kid, so I had a lot of energy. I had a lot of anger, and so when that whole movement came up when I was 16, 17, into my mid-20s, I was down with that. I just had fun with it. There was never any serious violence. There was never any knives or bottles or anything like that. But it was something. It was aggressive.
Release.
It was a release, and there were other people released. Sometimes I got knocked for a loop, and sometimes I knocked for a loop. But the reality is that at a critical moment in my life, my friend Jack was there to kind of help shepherd me through it. And
at 25, you realized moshing's a young man's game, and I'm done.
It was one of many stages where I realized, I was too fucking old. Yeah, I wasn't yet creepy old guy at the club, but I was definitely too old to mosh. Yeah, for sure.
So you weren't like the Tom Brady of moshing.
I was definitely
I'm gonna
not.
mosh till I'm 28.
No, I was not. I was not a goat.
I'm conditioning myself. I'm a nutritionist. I'm gonna stay moshing until I'm 28. That's my goal.
No. I was definitely.
Did you feel like that night that your moshing wasn't at the level that it previously had been?
I was
like dropped off.
I was like the Jim Plunkett. I was the Jim Plunkett of moshing. I had a couple of good seasons. Had a long career, but never. No, I was not the GOAT. I was not
because you couldn't mosh the way you previously had, and if you couldn't mosh at that level, you were just going to hang out by the back bar.
It didn't go. It didn't take long for me to be near the mosh pit, to be in the back, observing, commenting, criticizing from afar. Yes, much like now. Right
athletes, now, you become a commentator.
For the next couple of years, he just stood on the edge with his elbow sticking out.
That was rough. That was brutal. At one point, Jack did contemplate coming in to get me. So if you want to talk about a friend, that I believed him when he said,
after,
but I can't remember.
It was
several years hence. Tim would tell people, "I used to mosh." Yeah, hey, see those guys over there? I used to do that.
Yeah. It's part of my history. I mean, it truly is. I get it and I appreciate it, and I will tell you though, at Lollapalooza '91, I did not mosh in the Soundgarden pit because they were launching people in the air. I don't know if you've seen this. I've seen this at several stadium.
Yeah, I've seen
big
that.
things. And I just thought that even then I was like, and what was I? 21 at that time? I was
if you want to see something that just really is taking it to the next level, a level beyond almost comprehension, the band called Lamb of God, and you can Google it or YouTube it. It's the Wall of Death, they call it. And it's an orchestrated mosh, if you will. It's interesting.
Jesus, yeah, these young kids today, what are they fucking thinking? My God,
they're not pussyfooting around. That's for sure.
They're definitely not pussyfooting around.
2 times.
All right.
1 bourbon, 1 scotch, and 1 beer.
Well, gentlemen. First of all, Jack, Joe, good luck. Must be fucking nice. It's awesome. You both have awesome teams. I do think a low key and swag World Series would be hella fun.
It would be great.
Hella fun.
Would make me very happy.
I'm sure it would
for the podcast.
Well, and your teams deserve it. I mean, you did all the right things, from picking the right pitching staffs to making aggressive trades to really kind of sharing your philosophies, your strategies, talking about it on the podcast, leaving it out there for everybody. I think it's awesome, and I'm super excited for you. And even though Greg and I were sure that this game that we were playing was gonna determine who was first seed and who was second seed.
Right. I was gonna say the probability, the fact that we deserve it, the fate that is the matchup between me and Joe. Clearly, we've learned nothing this season, that Mike and Scotty will be playing for the championship.
Exactly right.
The only thing I can say, though,
it's awesome. So I'm super excited. So Bakers, we will be doing this for at least the next 4 weeks, if not the next 6 weeks. And I'm glad because I've really come to, over the last 5 months, look forward to this time with you guys and enjoy it. And it sounds like there's some other Bakers out there that really like it too. So love you guys. Hope you have a great night. And again, best of luck. We'll all be watching.
Peace, guys.
Thanks. Good luck.
Sayonara.
Let's go into Ghost Adventures mode. Oh my God, there's a presence of a spirit. The air around me just got noticeably colder. You know, there's a light orb that flew into Joe's head, or that could have been dust. I don't know which.
No, that's just my bald head.